Welcome to Zooming to Webinar Success. If you're needing to plan a virtual meeting and are stuck, this series is for you. Full-time voice artist Grant Holmes is also a busy virtual meeting manager and on-screen host. Learn tips and tricks to having successful virtual meetings from step one. And now, here's your host, Grant Holmes, the Webinar Guy.
Welcome to episode 19 of Zooming to Webinar Success. I'm Grant. My clients call me the Webinar Guy. And for the last few episodes, we've been talking about a lot of the things that you have to consider when doing a webinar, like your sound space or the space you're recording in, and so on. So what's next? Well, since it doesn't matter really what's next because it all needs done, let's cover something else that you should consider as you plan: how you'll present. Well, duh, Grant, I'm going to talk for 10 minutes or an hour or whatever. Don't need nothing else. Got it. But there are several modes to use, and that is the first. Let's call that the casual presentation. And in this mode, you are the focus speaker and only you will be on screen. Present your information, and that will pretty much be it. You may or may not do a Q&A, but the point here is that this is a solo project all the way. And by the way, if you need assistance with the tech or want to host or introduce other guests, you'll need to plan how and who will do what. Will you manage this by yourself? Have a moderator. And by the way, we call a moderator the person doing the tech side, pulling the levers and pushing the buttons, monitoring chat, and so on. You'll need an MC or host, or will you? Think about your favorite award show, say Billy Crystal in the Oscars. I may have just dated myself, but that's when they used to be fun. You get the point? By the way, the webinar team at thewebinarguy.com can help with both the tech and the host roles if needed. So if you're ready to start your next webinar or virtual meeting, but don't want to do the tech or need a host, any of this, hit our contact form. We'd appreciate that. Thanks for letting me do a little commercial. Next might be a slightly more formal setting. Say in this one, you'll be using a slide deck to disseminate your information. By the way, using slide decks is planned for further exploration in an upcoming episode, so stay tuned. In this case, you'll want to know how to be on the screen at the same time of your presentation. This can be done a few different ways. And again, our webinar team can help you with both creating your deck and how to manage the tech. I suppose there are even other ways to manage your information, but these two are certainly the most popular, the ones we see all the time. Now, I've also seen presenters that start live and then show a video that they've recorded elsewhere at another time. And while this can work, it can come across as canned, so be careful with that. So far, we've assumed that you're the only one presenting, but what if you're interviewing someone and they're using a slide deck? Now you need to be on top of your tech game. Managing others and doing your presentation can really be challenging. Our advice is to practice with those that you'll be having with your webinar before the actual live event, and more than once if you have challenges. Even if your other guests aren't available, lean on a few friends and ask 2 or 3 others to join you so that you can manage them in and out. If you're going to have more than one presenter, have more than one person help you. Anyhow, at least 2 or 3 others can help you manage the session, how to hide video, spotlight the speakers, and more. Also, get very familiar with the platforms. There's so many to use: Zoom, GoToMeeting, Google Meets, Webinar Jam, WebEx, Livestream, Air Meets, and more. These are all slightly different, and some have some really cool features that you may or may not use. So be careful and choose wisely. And a search on the internet will get you more information than you can possibly use. And like all other software programs, they are all adding features all the time. So we've covered going solo, the easiest way to go, with only you on the webinar or meeting and not using any slide deck. Then about you presenting on the screen, but you're still the only one presenting and you're going to add the element of a slide deck. Well, it's still pretty easy on the scale of difficulty. The moment we add more guests and presenters, like I pointed out above, it gets more problematic. And the more guest speakers you add, that. So anyhow, now you're not only adding the complexity to the meeting itself, but now you're managing others and them actually showing up for your virtual meeting and preparing for it if they don't. If you're planning a virtual webinar with many speakers at different times, and you can add the exponential issue of going more than one day, we get pretty close to a 10 on that difficulty scale. If this is your first webinar with many moving parts such as this, we strongly suggest getting professional help. The webinar management kind, of course, but some may think that you require the other kind. Anyhow, if you decide you need assistance with your virtual event and you're considering using a friend to moderate or handle all that tech, that they say they're happy to help, do it for a friend, please do a practice session and make sure you invite all the elements to bear. Realize that not everyone has more than 30 years of stage, hosting, and MC experience, and knowing what to do if it goes south, how to handle hecklers, and more are all critical skills. Tune in next week for using slide decks. This series is for smaller organizations and solopreneurs that may or may not be tech savvy, don't know all the steps, or quite frankly don't want to know all the steps. Over this series, I'm going to lead you through the significant decisions and capabilities you'll need to Zoom to webinar success. And as always, if you need help now, don't hesitate to reach out to webinarpro@thewebinarguy.com. Thanks for watching. Love to hear your questions and comments. And if you're listening to the podcast audio, thanks for listening. Tell a friend.